the agenda on my older computer, and
Okay.
so I'm just gonna follow the retreat agenda because there's no action items.
No.
No, so we're fine. No, so we're fine.
Okay, we are up live on YouTube.
Okay, I will call the retreat agenda of August 31st, 2021. I'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I do need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 All right, the motion has been approved. The first item is the board superintendent operating agreement. And I looked over this yesterday and I was thinking that maybe we would just take, if it's all right with you guys, just take a section and read it and then see if we want to add anything, delete anything, or have a discussion. Does that sound all right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. The purpose of the agreement, go ahead and read that to yourself. And if you want to add anything or subtract, go ahead. Just let us know. Let me know. Let the board know.
Okay.
Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
All right, thumbs up. All right. The next one is the B part, the board job description and relationship with superintendent. So read through that. If there's anything that you would want to discuss or add or delete, we can do so. Did everybody get a chance to read through it?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone want to add or delete or discuss anything in the board job description? If not, if not, we'll move on to the role of the board leadership.
Okay. So the only comment I have under the role of board leadership, and we've kind of talked about it maybe a little bit, but is number 2. The board leadership serve as the authorized spokesperson for the board with regard to board policy, process, and decisions. So, you know, this year has been a year where we've gotten quite a few, you know, public comments and questions about so far about, you know, district policies or decisions. And I just want to reiterate that the board leadership will respond. Is that right, Kate? I mean, that's what it says. And I know we talked about that. So you or Brad would be the spokesperson for the board.
Narcy, Mark.
I'm sorry, you and Narcy, I'm sorry, Brad.
Right. And as we go down under F,
Yeah.
there's communication that
Oh, okay. Maybe
it elaborates a little bit more, but once we get to F, if you feel like we need to add to it,
okay.
that would be good. And, you know, when I read these under communication, then I realized that I was supposed to respond to the emails, all the emails, and eventually I did, but I should have done it in a quicker manner. So it's good to be reviewing these and looking at these at least once a year.
I have a question. I'm not sure if it'll come up under F, Kate, but what if they're just writing one of us? And
Right.
how do we know if they're writing everybody or not?
I don't know how you know. You know, I think the only thing is you can just forward it on to the chair, whoever is chair, and also to the superintendent, and then.
That's what I've been doing. If I get an email from somebody to me personally, I just forward it to the chair and Dave.
Okay, good. All right.
Okay.
I think it's good just to review that. I like I said, I would anticipate this year there'll be a lot of communication and questions, and that's fine. So
Yeah, we haven't had that in the past, so this is a different year.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions about board leadership? Okay, thanks, Mark, for your comment, because that was one of my concerns too. The role of the superintendent, go ahead and review that one. Are we good with that one? Any additions or?
When we get to my goals, you'll have some more input to kind of talk about what we're going to get focused on this year. And that's kind of changed in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So we'll have a chance to kind of talk that through.
Great. All right, the next one is meeting operations and decision making. Are we okay with That one?
I just have one question about a word choice on
Yes.
E number 2. Unless prevented by sickness or an unavoidable cause. Instead of unavoidable, could we use an unexcused cause or I don't know, something different? Because I
Yeah,
mean, if I want to go on a vacation, I think I should be able to go on a vacation as long as I'm not going on a vacation every second and fourth Monday of the month. And technically that's avoidable, but I still think that I should be able to do that.
yeah. Any suggestion for another word? Or could you say, or an excuse?
You could say prearranged. I mean,
Conflict.
something like that, or sometimes when we all have things that come up, and I think all of us are pretty good about notifying, like board leadership and the superintendent over a prearranged, absence, unless it, happens, sort of the day of, but
Prearranged absence, and we'll work the sentence a little differently.
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's better. What do you think, Val?
Yeah, I agree. I was just trying to think how we could say prearranged, but yeah, we just need to change how the sentence
Yeah.
Yeah,
worded.
We may want to add in there emergency or something, just so that you have kind of sickness.
Right.
Some things might happen the day of, and then most of
Right.
the time you guys are you're letting me know well in advance, hey, this is going on. I'm going to connect via phone, or I'm not going to connect, whatever that situation is.
Okay.
Yeah, prearranged or excusable or both those words. I don't know.
Right.
We'll figure something out there. I understand the context of it. So we'll,
Okay.
yeah, that's a good suggestion. Thanks, Val. Anything else under meeting operations and decision-making?
so on number 5, make it a goal to make no new proposals on the night that the board is scheduled to make a decision or take action. Communicate concerns or questions to the board leadership and the superintendent prior to the public meeting. Try to avoid surprises. I just wanted you to know that I don't think I did as good of a job last year, and just checking in with you before the board meeting and kind of just prompting questions. Like, hey, do you have any questions? So wanted you to know that's going to be on my something I'm working on this year, just to check in with folks and make sure that if there is a question, you have an opportunity to kind of say it ahead of time. And then from your side, if you can get me the questions ahead of time so I can have my staff work on answers, that'd be great. I don't think that we need any changes. I just wanted you to know I'm thinking about that.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Dave. Let's move on to communication.
Do we have that footnote on 7 on the emails? Like, are they just automatically added to Kate's emails so she doesn't have to write that every time?
We can set that up for her.
I think we should. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's in the agreement that we have to have that, or that we're having that, then she doesn't have to think about writing it every time.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So the last part of that, the full board should be included in communications with the public. So should I, once an email has come, I have no idea who's getting emails and who's not, because the way we can send them. So should I forward them to the other board members after I receive them so that you're aware of them, aware of the question, the concern?
Yes, I think it's good. What's going through my head though is the whole, how do, if you're responding to all, it's the all board members piece that all of a sudden we get into violating public meeting laws around, if all five or a quorum of you are speaking in email, that's a problem.
Right, right.
So I think if you CC'd, it just nobody should be responding to that. Maybe that's our answer.
Yeah, I could, every time I send an email, say, do not respond as a group. You can respond as an individual, or, have some kind of little statement there, just as a reminder, because we all get in the moment, we read something and then we want to respond and know that we can't do that. But I do think it's important that the whole board knows, what some of the the concerns are that the community is concerned about. I mean, it's really become an issue, not an issue, but it's become this year because of COVID and the concerns that people have. We've had more emails than in previous years.
Yeah, I just wish there was a way that, we could know if they were sending it to everybody, because I just feel like it clogs up our emails or your email, Dave. If you've already received this email and then we get an email and we're forwarding everything onto you, and then Kate's forwarding it on as well, just a lot of emails of the same email. But I don't know if there's any way to know that.
It is a good point, Val, because I think we've all this year, just in this current, from July, really, maybe it was June, gotten emails that, to me, they've looked like they were just to me, but I believe everybody got them and they looked individual. And so, it's a tricky thing, because you want to, as board members, have open communication with the public, but you have to always be aware of the public meeting laws. And so, I don't know, Kate, I agree with what Kate said, though, is do not respond. You've done that, Kate, in the past. Do not,
Yeah.
Board members, if you send something out, do not respond to the group, or,
Yeah.
we all know that, but it is, having open communication is important, and doing it in a legal way is something that we really have to be aware of.
Yeah.
If you if you send them to the board and put the board in the BCC, the blind copy, then they can't reply to all.
Oh.
So
okay.
that
Oh.
might be a way to get around
Okay,
it.
that'd be good.
So say that again, Kathy. So if we,
Instead of, when you forward it, instead of saying to or carbon copy, if you do the
Mhm.
blind copy, then you don't get all the replies.
oh, okay, okay.
Hey, Mark, didn't you
Yeah.
do that the last year? Wasn't that part of your process when you got an email?
To
To blind copy the board.
I don't know if I did that every time, Brad. I sometimes I maybe did it individually,
Okay.
which just takes a little bit longer time, to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, I think the number 9 here has the 36 to 72 hours upon the receipt of the communication. I think we've been in that range, but just a good reminder that what we're shooting for, and Kate and I will work on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I under 9, most of the respond is going to be the same response that the superintendent's going to have. So I guess when we get an email, the chair can just talk it over with the superintendent before they respond. That seems to make sense. Does that make sense to other people? Dave, does that make sense?
Yeah, that's kind of what, and again, I think the BCC and the rest of the board, so they know what we're saying. And
Right.
again, if they have differences, we can talk about those too. But no, I
Right.
think you and I, or whoever is, if you delegated, whoever's doing that, will sit down and kind of talk it through and then provide a response.
Okay.
So about number 8, it's kind of like what Mark said, that I received emails where it looks like I'm the only one getting them. And then it says that I can respond as an individual if I want. But again, how would I know that? So I need to take that email and forward it on to Kate and say, did you receive this as well? And then go from there.
I think Brad's been the most consistent at when he gets this, he basically forwards it up to me and to the board chair. And then we compare notes at that point, like, yes, I did receive this, we'll provide a response, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then Brad, did you reach back out to that person if it was only to you, or?
Only if I got a response back from Dave or the board chair that this might be a response from me that I need to make. So
Okay.
if not, then that's a response that should probably come from the chair or the superintendent.
Okay, thanks.
So is there anything else under communication? Are we good?
I have a question.
Yeah, Narcy.
Good morning. It might have been there and I missed it. There are times that people send me emails, but they don't send me the emails. It's board related, but it's to my work email or to my personal email. So I just do a quick reply and I say, please do not email me at this address. You need to email me at the Forest Grove. So anyway, I'm just sharing that happens. Or sometimes people want to make an appointment with me. And I said, that's not, I just say, I tell them no, because I don't know what it is that they want to talk about. And anyway, just, I'm gentle about it,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I refer them back to go to do the testimony during the board meetings if they have a concern or a question, or I tell them to call Dave.
Yeah.
Is that the way to go? Okay.
Yeah, I think even if they email on your other work, you could remind them to use your Forest Grove, but I would just make sure and reply from your Forest Grove if there's something that you're saying, just so that, again, we can start to track the interactions.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong, but if you interact via your personal account and a controversy arises, they can go through your personal email, all of it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rule of thumb is don't put anything in an email that you don't want anyone to see. You just have to be very, very careful. I will say this, that, we follow this and we've been following this pretty regularly. And I think everybody's been doing a good job. This has been a very respectful board. So I'm just, we've just followed this and I think it's kept us out of trouble too. So anyway, if there's no more comments, I will move on to the board goals. That's our next item. And the ongoing duties of the board include resource allocation, formulating policy, supporting the district vision, and the board annually adopts goals that are aligned with its role in support of the district strategic plan. So I think the first one, I think you put down the, okay. So here we are, the Forest Grove School Board goals for 2021. So does it work if we just take it section by section and read it? Is that working for everybody?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's read 1 and 2, and then we'll comment.
So do we still need, the board will work to reduce class size?
I think so. At the high school and the middle school? Or maybe not.
So here would be my recommendation on that. We're in a really challenging period of time with regard to enrollments. And it might be wise to leave it just because of, I don't know exactly what's going to happen here. And this has been a goal of yours. And so it might be until we see some more normal school years as far as enrollments and such, it might be good just to leave it, just to remind us that this is a goal of ours to maintain lower class sizes and such.
So maybe we add to the board will work to reduce and maintain low class sizes, or just maintain class sizes.
I think lower is important.
Yeah, I think having it in front of us is important, especially going through kind of this transition time. Just to remind us what our goals are in terms of making decisions. That's just my opinion.
I agree with you, Brad. Are there any other comments or additions, deletions for 1 and 2? If not, let's move on and do 3 and 4.
Kate,
Yeah, go ahead, Narcy.
yeah, that first part, it might be in the, it might be further down, but let me see if it's there. Let me read it again. Where it says the board. I'm looking at something that might have like data driven, that we're actually using data to be able to decide.
Are you
strategic-
looking at bulletin 3? The board will expect the district to apply an equity lens to policy and curriculum.
No, I'm not
No.
necessarily looking at equity. I mean, we're always looking at that. I'm looking more at that the board will intend to make decisions that are strategically with data-driven information, so forth and so on.
I think that was on our last topic. So I don't know if it's exactly a goal or just something we're expected to always do.
I did
Was
see,
it? Can we go back to,
yeah,
can we go back to the other?
Yep.
it was at the bottom, I think. Or well, maybe not.
I saw it somewhere on here though.
It too. It was the last bullet somewhere. There it is.
Yeah, right
Number
there.
B12.
It's written into the equity policy that was passed last year. So maybe there is a piece here that the applying an equity lens is written into the equity policy. And there's also that will utilize data to do something. So maybe there is something to add here.
I was thinking more, I mean, that's good there, but I'm thinking just data in general about all of it, class sizes, it's data, but it's also sort of best practices that may be going on through the state or the nation that we want to I mean, what do others think?
Well, I think you're right. For me, I think you're right.
About something like this.
That's fine, yeah.
I mean, I see that happen with several reports and initiatives. When people do the presentations, there's usually data. Or we request for additional stuff and it's provided.
I think you just leave it at that, Dave, because there's,
Yeah.
Yep.
we all know there's so much data out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Narcy. I think that that's a good addition. Anything else on 1 and 2? If not, we'll go to 3 and 4. Has everybody read 3 and 4?
Mhm.
Kate, I have a question about 4, and it's the bullet that says board members will maintain relationships and communicate regularly with legislators. So I had and I called you about this, Kate, I think the other day, and I
Yeah.
haven't had a chance to circle back today, but I received a call from one of our politicians' office, Bonavici, wanting to, not her, but one of her aides, to see if it's a board member from Forest Grove School District, I would be willing to participate in alleviating some of the, by being like a panelist or a future person to work with the Newburgh School District people. Because they're going through, Dave's laughing, going through some stuff. So I said, I said, I will be happy to do that if it's a team, if it's a panel, but if it's well planned. But I'm not going on my own in front of the, to talk about best practices for a board and so forth and so on. So just wondered, so is that an example of that?
So I think I think that bullet is really talking about just ensuring that we can help legislators understand the Forest Grove point of view with regard to, could be funding, it could be other things.
Mhm.
I think what you're talking about there is actually when you get asked as a member of the board to take part in some, community deal. When they're doing that, they're actually asking you as a citizen, because of your experience, to operate as, again, it wouldn't be the whole board. The whole board's the only place that you can make a decision. They would be asking you as a private citizen. You would do that as your own person. And again, I don't think it's a terrible idea. I think I don't think I would want to do that alone.
No way.
That's my take on it, but they would be asking you as a private citizen who has an experience in the board, not necessarily the board's point of view on this, that, or the other thing.
Okay.
Narcy, my point of view, I'd be really careful with that.
Right.
And I would want to make sure that the guidelines and the parameters were clearly outlined. I can see getting sucked into something like that and then having questions representing the Forest Grove School Board, and that would not be a good thing. So I would just, if I was in that situation, I would want clear parameters about what my role is and is not in that situation.
I agree. I think that it could be hard for community members to separate your personal point of view from your board seat. And so, I'd just be really, really alert about that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that advice, and I will take it because I don't want to compromise our board in any shape or form. And I want to be and let's see if it happens. I haven't heard back, but this is good advice for me.
Well, I think there's some changes happening. I saw yesterday that they were going to change their viewpoint on the two big issues that they voted on. So that's good. And when Narcy called me, I said to her that she also needed to alert Dave because as we're all aware, Narcy's had a lot of experience with working with groups and is well connected and working at where were you before? You were the community Rock Creek. Weren't you at Rock Creek? And you did a lot of work there too. So you do bring a lot of experience and expertise and perspective that's valuable. But politically, it's just really touchy right now. I mean, we want the best for our kids in our school districts and want to help, but it's challenging times right now. Okay. Yeah. Anything else under four? And I think the last one is, does anybody have any questions on 3 and 4? Okay, 5 is our last one, so review that and then we'll move on. Okay, any questions on the last one? Questions, additions, deletions? Are we good? Okay, let's move on to the superintendent goals. And I think the first part, Dave had his 20, 20, and 21 goals.
Yeah, I should get the dates right. It's in the header. I'll fix that later. So I originally drafted kind of 3 major goals for the year. And then the Delta variant happened. And so I've now added back in this goal number 1 to managing the pandemic. What I need today from you is kind of the large goals are what I want to talk about. I've started putting in some of the action steps. There's still some work for me to do on some of these pieces, but I just wanted to kind of go through the large goals first, and then we can look at and kind of get me pointed in the right direction here. So goal number 1, I was really hoping 6 weeks ago that we were going to get to spend this year talking about instruction and really starting to reinvigorate kind of our instructional program in schools. That's going to be more of a challenge. I've still got quite a bit of instructional work set out in front of me here, but I just wanted you to know, I think a good portion of our year now is going to be getting our schools open and keeping them open. And a lot of my work is going to be around managing the pandemic again. So what I've done here is, so that's my first goal, continue to manage the pandemic and position the district to provide the maximum amount of instruction. Maybe that should say in person, I don't know, of instruction for students, because that's really my main goal here is trying to get kids in school and keep them in school all year. The action steps, I'm kind of breaking that into, one of the main things you're going to see here is getting them into school, we'll immediately start to do some assessments for all students to figure out where they're at with regard to literacy and then math in particular. And then we've put aside about $1 million worth of ESSER funds for each school to begin to provide more interventions for the students who are behind. One of the things we did with those $1 million worth of ESSER funds is we allocated them, there's like a base allocation, and then we allocated based on the 4 underserved populations. So depending upon your Latino population, your ELL population, your SPED population, and your students in poverty, you got extra weights. And so we allocated those funds in a very equitable way to make sure that the buildings that have bigger challenges received some extra money. Every building got a base though, so every building is able to do interventions. The principals are still working through kind of what exactly that looks like. In most buildings, it's increased licensed and classified people to actually do the intervention work. And that can look a lot of different ways, but basically you need more folks to be able to work with these students to get them caught up, get them back to where we want them to be. So the other thing that we've got working on this.
Hey, David,
yeah.
the only thing I would say would be, and I'm not sure the what the plan is in terms of getting some type of baseline when kids return to school about where they are.
Yeah.
It's all anecdotal at this point.
Right.
Where we're making comments about we're making goals about improvement, but we have no idea where we are right now.
Yeah.
So, and I'm thinking that at some level in terms of that return to, I'm sure you're doing this already.
Yeah.
But having an idea where kids are when they come into the school buildings in terms of their instructional levels.
Yep. That'll be that third bullet there, administer fall benchmark assessments to determine student skill levels. It'll be one of the first things we do is once we get them all in the building, will be to get a baseline and figure out where we're at. And then we're going to have to figure out where we're going to get to from there.
And as soon as we know where they're at, then we start to develop those strategies.
Yeah.
Then okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, hiring right now is a big challenge. So buildings are probably off already working on trying to hire some of these elements. But yes, what they'll end up doing is using processes we already have in place, MTSS, to start figuring out what the interventions will be for specific kids once we find out where they're at in their reading and math levels.
Thank you.
The last part, the fourth bullet here is really around what the research is pretty clear on is that professional learning communities for teacher teams are some of the highest benefit processes that we can run. So we're taking this opportunity of having been out for 1.5 years to refresh the mechanisms of those PLCs. So all of the buildings are beginning to work on what is the work that we're doing in those PLCs. And the work is really, 1, figuring out what are the standards that we're teaching, 2, where are kids at? Are they below or are they above? And how do we get instruction in both of those areas to those students? So the buildings are all kind of refreshing those PLC processes this year. And then I don't have the action steps yet, but again, I think there's some communication pieces that there's some steps here that I need to kind of build in how we're going to communicate through the rest of the school year. So I'll add in some more action steps there. And for me, this is job 1. And for the first 2 or 3 months, this will probably be a lot of my focus. Goal 2, this is the same goal that I had last year, which is enact systemic change for our historically marginalized students. This has been our ongoing work. One of the big things that we're working on that I think is really exciting is this, our work around social and emotional wellness and its connection to equity. And so both Oz and Cassie, who kind of work both of these initiatives, they applied for and got a grant for working to, we don't yet really have a set of standards with which we're trying to meet in social emotional wellness and equity. And what they're going to be working on this year is to actually, it'll probably be 2 years. This first year will kind of December, winter, we'll be firing up a group to begin to look at how do we create standards that work for both of these entities. So the social emotional work for me seems just as important in this enacting systemic change for our historically marginalized students as just our straight up equity work. And so I'm going to have both of them here. Oz has been sick, so I don't have the tasks yet for our equity work this year, but we did have a good first meeting with our equity team, and that's off and rolling. You can see the other kind of bullets there that we're working on with our social and emotional wellness, the onboarding of our counselors, and the implementation of the comprehensive school counseling, developing social emotional learning standards. That's what I just talked about. Integrate CASEL core competencies in the classroom instruction. And these CASEL core competencies are they're like self-responsibility, self-awareness. I had a couple of questions by parents about, hey, what are these CASEL core competencies? They're things that I can't imagine anybody not wanting to be taught in our schools. I have a note. I'm going to have Cassie come in and present to the board on kind of what these pieces are and how it's going. But we're right in the middle of kind of developing some consistent practices across K-12 that will help students with these things. And then we've also got the mental health piece that we're working on. Like I said, we're working on kind of the work that we're doing with equity. And when I bring this back to you next time, I'll have more data. I'll have some more tasks there. So that's the second goal that I know that I am planning on achieving this year.
Dave, I have a question. The part about the mental health need for students through family mental health coordination and all of that.
Yep.
Well, actually, well, let me see. I don't know. I guess the question that I have, I saw somewhere, oh, suicide response policy and plan. So let me see if I can, let me think in English. Do we have a compliance requirement with state or federal to have a suicide prevention plan?
Yes.
Okay. And is there one that, is it just suicide, or is there any like also in addition like alcohol and drug?
The state requirement is around a suicide response. There's a bunch of things that came in that. The state's actually using our plan with other districts. So Cassie and her group has done a lot of work there. There isn't really a connection to another thing, but I should probably that's a question I should probably ask Cassie, because I'm not an expert surrounding that part of it. But I'll probably need to get back to you on that full answer.
Yeah, I was just curious about, or maybe, you know, I thought it could be in a different goal, but it's that drug and alcohol. Yeah. Prevention. And then the other question that I have that might align here with this particular bullet as well is, and I'm asking the answer because I don't know I have a question about it. Title IX, do we have, is that a compliance for us as well?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
And does that fall in this box, or where would that fall? Or is that under policy?
John is technically the Title IX officer in the district, and there's a whole slew of things. We were audited for this, I want to say 2 years ago. So we've, and again, they've come through and identified, bathrooms and other things that we weren't in compliance with, and we fixed those things. The large items we've all been in compliance with.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Hey, don't you think the drug and alcohol, I mean, I just think about it in terms of there are standards probably in the health area that required you to teach students about drug and alcohol
Yes.
concerns. So
Yes, there are. I don't think anybody in K-12 education is really doing an awesome job at drug and alcohol prevention. So I think there's probably some good work there, but I probably need to check in with our folks who do this for a living. I know you paid for the money for the counselors that we do some reference to. So I know there's a system and there's some logic behind what we do. I just don't have it at the top of my head right now, what that is. Okay, I'm going to move on to goal 3 here. Okay, goal 3, develop an instructional vision for all classrooms based on the student attributes we're expecting from our graduates. So this is this instructional vision has been on my goals for a couple of years. This year is the year we're going to move forward with getting it finished. 3 years ago, we did the work around the maxims, around what our district values were. And I did 35 community meetings with staff and community members and everybody else. And we got back this information. And from that, we created our community values. What I'm working on this year is those are clear. They've been useful to us. People understand them and they come from our community. What we're doing this year is to finish off this, to figure out from the 35 community meetings and more meetings that I'm going to do this fall, kind of what do we expect to see in the classroom, and what is the base vision that everybody in our district can understand and agree with. An example of this would be like in other districts, they might be around critical thinking. If that turned out to be kind of the instructional focus for our district, well, in a preschool classroom, a teacher can think about their curriculum and say, well, how am I teaching critical thinking? And an advanced physics class can look at their curriculum and say, how am I teaching critical thinking? And so that vision of what we're trying to do in the classroom can easily be translated pre-K through 12. That's what we're looking for. We've engaged a team of folks up here to start this work. We're working again with Inflection, who helped us with the original work to kind of finish it. And when we come out of it, what I expect to see is, and again, this will come from a lot of the work that we'll be doing is, again, asking our community and our teachers and our kids, so what are the attributes that are most important to our graduates when they walk across the stage? And we've already heard this from them. One of them is, being able to critically think. So they come across a problem in the future. Can they think through the problem and figure out what tasks to do? Probably communication. I want to be able to write and speak and read adeptly. And then there's probably, I think in this district, there's going to be something about kind of my ability to see through other people's lenses and understand their experience, and then be able to figure out how that interacts with me. There's something out there, but we'll find out more as we go through. So these are just the 3 tasks. I'm gonna head out this fall, engage stakeholders in developing a set of student outcomes expected of Forest Grove graduates. Sometime in the winter, we're gonna convene a team of teachers, administrators, and staff to kind of grab all of this information and winnow it down into these kind of this instructional vision. And then we'll start sharing out the student attributes and instructional focuses with the board and community in the spring is kind of what we're headed for. So those are the kind of and we're already, later today, I'm developing the presentation with a team of folks that we're going to be pushing out in the fall. So the work's already off and rolling, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get it nailed down.
So Dave, my question is, what is going to be your evidence? Is there going to be data from this, or, I don't know. How are you going to evaluate the outcomes?
Well, we have the data on whether or not kids are achieving or not achieving. That'll all be part of the process. What we're really going out to we've already got, like I said, 35 plus meetings. We got thousands of data points from 3 years ago around student outcomes. We're going to go back out. Things have changed over the last year and a half. So I just want to go back out and make sure that our community still thinks and believes the same things. And if not, we'll be utilizing that data to kind of winnow down what these large, again, we're probably going to fall somewhere pretty close to the four C's, the 21st century skills, which are communication, creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration. Those have all been identified nationally as skills that people need in our world now. I mean, many of our kids are going to have jobs that aren't created yet. I can't remember the exact research, but it's within 20 years, like 20% of the jobs haven't been thought of yet. So our kids need skills to be able to manage those things. That's probably where this is going to winnow out. But until we do that work, I'm not going to know exactly.
Dave,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Nurse.
yeah, thank you. It's probably more to come on this day because I know it, you just mentioned it's developing and, it's work in progress, which is very exciting. It makes me think also about it, and it's probably going to be embedded in the information that we get, because a lot of this learning regarding the visions that you just talked about are going to surface out of the classroom. So I pause and think about the instructors, teachers teaching this class. They might have to retool, I guess is what I'm saying. And what will that look like if they have to retool to be able to meet this particular attributes, not standards, but attributes that you're talking about. So I assume that's going to be part of the plan, right?
Yeah, and in particular, it'll take a while to get there, but this will help us focus our professional development. I mean, right now we're all over the place we've got so many things running. What I want to get to is where we start to focus on some specific pieces. And that's kind of why this work is important to me, is my ability to start to, again, like the maxims have been really easy for me to say, look, if you as an employee, if you're not caring deeply, like your actions show that you're not in alignment with us, then it becomes really easy for me to start saying, okay, that's not okay. So how do we fix this and how do we move on? Right now, I have no way of real connecting what's going on in my pre-K classrooms to what's going on in my seniors. They're all doing great work, but there's no through line. There's no organization to it. And so that's what the other part of this will help us kind of focus our professional development and what we're working on.
So Dave, maybe the evidence then is if you're successful with this goal, you will end up with a framework that will drive your instructional strategy and what happens in the classroom. And ultimately, hopefully the evidence will be when kids graduate from Forest Grove High School, these areas in this framework will help identify those skills that they should be leaving Forest Grove High School with.
Exactly.
So that, in my mind, that's what success would be if you've implemented this goal. It's really about the students that are leaving Forest Grove High School and the behaviors of the teachers in the classroom.
Right.
I'm sort of stuck on the second one. So bear with me. So it says, develop a set of instructional focuses from the agreed upon student outcomes for K through 12. I understand development, but how do you know if it's working? How do you know if it's effective?
Well, there's a couple of different measures. One is we have our achievement measures already. I mean, we will be looking at that. We look at the success of students after they leave our school through there's a database that we get back information on how kids are performing in their first year of college. But the other thing that we also will be measuring through this are some of those 21st century kinds of skills yet. So there's going to be some things for us still to figure out, is how do we measure some of these other pieces?
Yeah, I guess that's the piece, because I get the end of it, the graduates, but what about in kindergarten, first grade, second grade?
Right.
So I know as you work and develop it, I'll see a clearer picture, but I just don't know how you're going to see those outcomes. So
Yeah,
I'll learn.
and it maybe outcome may be the wrong word here, Kate. It may be attributes, because that's really what we're.
Okay. Okay, maybe that makes more sense to me.
Because that's really what's going to come out of what we've already got information on, and what will come out of the meetings that I hold this fall will be around kind of what are the attributes that they're looking for students to have.
You know, Dave, I like the word attributes. When I look at that K through 12 and thinking of my daughters going through, especially the two younger ones going through Forest Grove School District, I certainly witnessed and saw that what you're talking about was taking place, but maybe not being captured. In particular with the critical thinking, that I was just blown away by my daughters coming home with literally critical thinking about a book they might have read on, whatever the book might have been about. In particular with social justice stuff like MLK or Cesar Chavez, they would literally come home and be analyzing. I mean, it was happening in that, especially in the elementary school, which was amazing. So I just wanted to say, I think it's happening.
Yeah.
And at least that's what I've experienced with my girls. So anyway, just want to share that kudos in general.
And I would also I don't think this is going to be a lot of new stuff. I think we are already doing these things. What we're trying to do is align them and get people talking about, because like the measurement of these things, there will be some new measurements here, but most of what we're already doing is what we're going to use to say, are we being successful? We just got to align it and bring, like you can pretty much ask anybody on our organization and they'll be able to tell you what the maxims are. If you say, they'll get one of them, right? So, but if you ask them, what's the purpose of the instruction in our classroom, they're going to be good answers. There's nobody out here that's doing poor things. It's just that they're all going to be different. That's the problem that I'm trying to fix here, is trying to align the purpose in those classrooms a little bit. The last goal that I laid out here is,
David?
Yep.
What you just said might be a good language to add to this, to your goal.
Yeah.
Because it makes a lot of sense. That's just a comment.
Yep.
And Dave, when I heard you say all that you just said, that sounded really good. Also, it made me think about how those are amazing highlights for the opportunity to, when you are hiring new administrators, in particular teachers, that they know ahead of time that these are expectations or so forth and so on. It was just a good marketing thing that you said that would attract more people to the district. They would really like what you just said.
So it's really funny because we did the new teacher in service on Friday, and it was a great time. We talked about instruction and lots of fun things for an educator to talk about. But one of the last things I started talking about was, again, the maxims and where they came from and what they are. And again, it was just, I heard back from some folks just that it was really powerful to understand what a district's collective values were, and turned out to be a really powerful moment for folks. So being able to do that with instruction that's exactly what I'm trying to head for, is to be able to do that same thing. The last goal here is I need to go out. This question about grade levels, now's the time that I need to go out and have a conversation. We're probably a year, 2 years away from going out for a bond of some sort. And we've got to have an answer to this question before we do that. And so that's the fourth goal for me this year, is to get out and engage stakeholders in the discussion about the history of our grade level configurations, the pros and the cons, and then to take feedback and hear from folks. Convene a team of stakeholders to analyze what we hear in these community meetings, and then come back and create a recommendation to the board. If this is going to change, it's going to take a couple of years to organize and get it done. If in this capital measure we're building a new school, then it makes sense that whatever boundary change that we make falls in line with the opening of that new school. And so that's why pretty much I have to get out this fall and do this work, because we got to have an answer, and it's the right time to do it. And I don't know which way I can fall on both sides of this argument right now. So I don't know what the right direction is on it, but I just know I got to do this work. So, and that's kind of, you see the action steps that I kind of laid out there.
Any questions for Dave? Anyone want to add any more goals for Dave? I think he's got his plate full.
Well, and that's kind of my last conversation. If there's no other, I mean, if people understand that that's a good goal and that's what we should be doing right now, I would take any feedback on that. But what I would say is, with the pandemic coming back, I'm not sure I have much more bandwidth to do anything else. So if there is something else, we should probably talk about it now and figure out how to work it into my playlist here.
I would just say that I mean, I think number one is going to be huge. Just that one, just looking around the country and how school districts have gone in and out of in-person and CDL and everything else, depending on how the virus is. I guess I hope, Dave, that you have time to devote to these other three, you know, over the course of the year, because I think number one is just huge. And to me, they look good. The instructional one is really an important one, and I just hope you have time to, you know, a substantial amount of time to devote to that one, and that number one doesn't take up all your time. So.
Agreed. I've got teams on two. I feel pretty good that the work that we're laying out here, we can still accomplish. So I've got teams working on that.
Yeah.
The instructional vision, again, I've got teams working on this, and I'm not doing all of the work on it.
Yeah.
So I feel good about that. 4, I have to get done because I can't not get it done. So that's why I look at these and it's like, well, okay, strap in, because of this is all going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, there was one last thing that, you know, when you go down to the last one about number 4, I do think that, and I know this is a lot of extra, I know it's some extra work, but looking at the times that the high school kids and the middle school kids start school seems to me to fit in there. I think the high school kids should start school later, and there is research. I know there's research on both sides of it. That's just my thought. I'd like to know if other board members are, interested in looking at that or not. And if they're not, then, but I do know that, the research is there that says that, high school kids should start later. Anybody on the board?
I agree, Kate. And what time does Neil Armstrong start? Is it 7:30? That seems real early to me as well. And I think we should look at it also.
What time does Neil Armstrong? I thought
7:45.
7:45.
7:45, yeah.
Okay, okay. And the high school.
What do you think, Mark?
Well, I mean, there's, I don't know. I've read some of the research on this. I don't know where it falls. It's a complicated, I think it's a pretty complicated issue. I guess, I'd have to go back and look at the research, and I'm happy to, I've been away from it for a while. So I'm happy to take a look at it again, just personally, and see what the research shows in terms of starting times. I know that Kate, probably 3 or 4 years ago, there was a big push to change times. I don't know that it's shown up in so much of the educational publications lately, but I think it's worth looking at.
Narcy?
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I think so as well.
Brad?
Yeah, we've had discussions about this in the past multiple times. I'm just looking at the amount of goals here for the year coming forward. I mean, it might be something that we put together, that David puts together a task force to look at.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we'd add another goal to his plate in terms of moving forward. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at this and saying, this
Yeah.
might be enough
Yeah.
For this
Well,
year.
Yeah, I think it's enough, but I also think that, the idea of a task force to look at this, I think it would really tie in with, 2 years down the road when we're looking at, grade configuration and,
So maybe putting together a group to do the study and to do the background work, and then report to the superintendent. And then David maybe could have some discussions with board leadership to determine whether it's something that needs to be a part of moving our goals moving forward.
yeah.
I think so. And actually, I am pretty interested in it, Dave. So I'd be interested in being a part of that, just reading what's out there again. So.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to also be on that committee or task force or whatever it is.
I think I think I can approach that. Again, if it's a huge change in district operations, again, now you're going to have elementary kids who are starting school at 7:45, because if somebody's going to go to school at that slot, that's the transportation part of this is we have to get them. I'll also tell you that I've yet to see a single school who improved their student achievement with this. Now, I'm not being a downer on that. It's just that everybody always likes to present the earlier start as being an improvement in student achievement. And if you don't change the instruction in the classroom, you're going to have the same achievement. You're just doing it at a different time. But the question is kind of, do you get more kids? Are they more awake? I mean, those are still really valid questions. I will say that when we made this change in Hillsborough to the later times, again, people said, yeah, we're going to improve student achievement. Didn't see that. Did see, I mean, I think it was teenagers getting up at 7:30. That's not always an awesome, being in school, that is not always an awesome thing. It does conflict more with your kids spend more time, all of your activities kids spend more time out of their classes in the afternoon because now you're busing them. But that's just a small, I mean, those are just some of the, with any system, there's some impact. And that's just one of those impacts is we ran into, especially like spring sports and the rainouts, is there would be some weeks where kids were missing 3 and 4 of their last blocks. And so that was a problem we had to start working through, is how do we manage some of those pieces? Not saying it wasn't worth it. It's like I said, I don't think Hillsboro's unhappy that they made that change. It just that it wasn't always exactly, there's always good things and bad things that happen with it.
Yeah, I just read an article about it, and it was like by pushing back the start time an hour, the kids are averaging like 18 to 24 more minutes of sleep a night.
Yeah.
And so then when I'm reading this, I'm thinking, is that worth it to completely change our whole district start time and our buses and the activities? So I think it's just, maybe having somebody look at it and evaluate the pros and cons.
Right.
I will say also with the high school, if you do have people doing activities, they're staying up later. It seems to me like when my kids were younger, they were going to bed earlier. So it made sense for them to get up, or they were just naturally getting up a little earlier.
Yeah.
I don't know. So just looking at all those things, I feel like I said, pros and cons about both.
Yeah.
I experienced the same thing a little bit when we, what Dave was talking about is that when you have folks, students involved in after school activities, and they do have to leave classes early, what that does to scheduling is that we'd get requests from parents that their student have a study hall the last period of the day. And so there's a trickle down effect to this, which is, if you grant those requests, then it makes class sizes uneven. It really upends all kinds of things in terms of, if you say that athletes have, if you're on a 4-period day, only 3 periods of classes, that they have to get into their classes those 3 periods of the day, it juggles quite a few things. The makeup of that last period class, how many teachers you need last period of the day, all kinds of things. So there is a huge trickle down effect to with after school activities. There just is, if you start later.
Yeah, I never really thought about it like that, Mark. I mean, because I was talking to the girls about they wanted to have a period off, and I told them if they wanted to do that, I wanted it to be the last period of the day. Right. Because then it's not affecting, but I never really thought about then it affects just the class sizes for your earlier classes and your teachers too. It's a good point.
Well, I know that I've been on the board the longest, and we talk about it, but we never get it. We never really look at hard data to see the pros and cons of it. And again, the interest that I have is, what is best for students, not only academically, but physically and emotionally. And the schedule that we have right now might be just perfect, but looking at that, we may reconfigure our schools, and that, it seems like a timely time to do so.
Okay.
Anything else on goals? Okay, I think the next piece is the student evaluation timeline and criteria. Correct? Kathy, is that where we're at now?
Kate, I just wanted to say today, thank you for those goals, Dave. I appreciate all that you're doing, and I know it's hard work. So in spite of the COVID and all of the stuff that's going on is external and internal factors, I think you're doing an awesome job.
Thank you.
I agree. Yeah. All right, superintendent evaluation timeline process for 21-22.
Yeah, can you
Thank-
see my screen? I put it up there. Can you see it?
Yep.
Kathy, I don't know what we would do without you.
So this is typical of what we've normally done the last couple of years. We've moved things back just a bit because of COVID. Things just aren't happening as quickly as they normally would, but I think this will work. And then you'll also need to talk about whether you want to do the 360 again this year. And we have it on here. But this follows pretty close to what we did last year.
Do you want me to, how does the board feel about continuing the 360 that we've done in the last, I think since Dave has been on board? I'm fine with it.
I think we should follow the same process that we did have every year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Val, are you okay with that?
Yes, I agree.
Mark,
Yeah, I am.
Narcy?
So we're talking about the 360 for that to be done on a yearly basis. Is that what what's
Correct.
being? This is just me, but I'll go with the team. I think doing a 360 every year it's a lot. Every other year, but yet I'm still trying to understand the Forest Grove School District's evaluation assessment of because it's pretty much it seems like it's the same, but I've only been on the board for a little bit. So I just think it's a lot. I think maybe every other year would be good, but I'm fine with every year.
Why did we decide that we were going to do it every year instead of every other year?
Oh, it is every other year?
No,
No,
Oh, it's every year. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I was asking, I don't know if I cut out. I was asking why, does anybody remember why? I thought maybe it was just because we want to have the continuity
Mhm.
to the community, but am I mistaken?
Yeah, I think that's correct, Val. We wanted to do the same assessment each year. Now, I think in the past sometimes we've done a more detailed assessment where if I remember right, I'm trying to think where we actually do some interviews of folks.
Mhm.
This was pre-COVID, rather than filling out a form that comes in your email. I think Bo did that one year, didn't he, Brad and Kate? And then
Yeah.
so there was one year that it was much more intensive than the other years. The other years, I think we've done where it's emailed to, the stakeholders, and you get that baseline data. But I just think it's good to do at least the 360 where you email and get feedback to find areas where, Dave's doing really well and areas where maybe you got to shore up a little bit. So at least to have that conversation. I don't know.
I agree with that. I
That
think
makes sense.
that looking at this not from a kind of a punitive standpoint, more of a self-improvement. If I was sitting in Dave's seat, I would want that feedback from stakeholders to see where I was in terms of areas that I might want to set up goals for the next year, and areas of focus that I might not know about if I didn't do the survey. So.
I had thought the same thing, Narcy, like every other year, but I do agree with Brad that I think that doing the 360, we've done it now. I think this will be coming up the fourth year, and it seems to go pretty smoothly. And Dave knows what to expect, and we know how to understand it and evaluate it. So I think that continuity is important.
I think having heard all of you, I agree with that. Also for transparency, it's good.
Yeah. Okay. Anything, let's see. Let me see, I gotta go back to where
So
we're
is that-
at here.
So that's generally, we work with the Coraggio group on that, or we have
Yeah,
Kathy, and that's, I think that's in the budget again, a certain dollar figure to cover that. Okay, we're always trying to get it down lower and lower every year.
Yeah, we left it in the budget.
Okay, all right.
Mark, you do a great job at that.
yeah. That's gonna be your assignment this year.
Yeah,
I'm going to appoint you.
I always ask them, can you lower that a little bit, please?
Well, the other question is, do we want to have somebody else do, an outside person do the evaluation? I mean, they've done a good job. I don't have any criticism, but
Yeah.
I know that, I think Brad, when you and I started this, before Dave was on, I don't know if we could find anyone that would do something like this.
No, they were the ones that were doing this in other districts. Remember, we did the kind of the search, and they were the top company
Yeah.
in the area, working with other
Yeah.
school districts
Okay.
and
Yeah.
companies too.
Yeah,
Oregon School Boards Association does do it also. So that's something to think about.
yeah. I'm fine with them. What about the rest of the board?
I think they do a good job.
I'm good with them.
I mean,
Copy.
I'm good with them too. I think that now we have, I don't know, we sort of have a system and a communication with them that's pretty consistent, and I don't know.
Yeah, the relationship, and they know us and they've worked with us, and it's nice not to have too many new things coming at us every single year,
Yeah.
especially the last two. So,
Hey,
okay,
Kate.
Kathy, yeah,
So here's my take on this. One, Coraggio Group does a really nice job of packaging the info so it's usable by me. So I appreciate Coraggio, and the goals that I wrote this year. I looked at the things that I got graded lower, and that's why the instructional piece is there, and some of the management pieces, the pandemic piece. So I use those in creating my goals. So I really appreciate that if we're going to do this, that doing it with a group who can get me good information to work off of. So I appreciate that. The other one is yeah, I don't really love having the 360 every year, but I would say this isn't the year to stop, because I think that our community is going to have some things to say. And for me to hear those, I think is going to be important. So I'm good with all of this. I think it's going to be important that we hear from folks about what they think. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
well, thanks for that input. I think also that because we've been doing this for 4 years now, that, you know, we are being very transparent, and I think we're doing our job by evaluating Dave and reaching out to the community. It's not just 5 board members, you know, it's the whole community, and I think that that's why things have worked well in the last 4 years. You know, the communication you've done has been excellent, Dave. So it's been really valuable. Thank you. Kathy, should you want to go through this, and is there anything that you think that we should look at on the timeline?
I think the timeline's good. I'm sure, I think you guys can look at it again. We'll bring it to the 13th meeting as future action, and then action the 2nd September meeting, so you can have time to look at it a little bit more, and we can review it again in board leadership just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay.
I just shared my screen with the evaluation tool that you've used, and this is the tool from OSBA, and I think it works pretty well. Is there anybody, do you want to change anything, or do you want to continue with this evaluation tool? It's pretty long, but it gives you some pretty good, and Coraggio also uses the 360 that's aligned with these standards from OSBA, so they work well together.
Yeah. Well, these are what we've used the last few years, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Coraggio aligning them is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm fine with them. What about other board members? Is there anything, do you want to look through them and then
I'm good with them. Kate.
And
send
I-
any
they should
questions?
be in your they were in your packet too. So, you know, if you
Yeah.
have any questions, let me know, but
I'm fine with them as well.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay. And Narcy?
Yeah, I'm fine with them. I think that this year I became more familiar with this particular process. So my commitment is to meet the deadlines of submitting the reports on a timely basis. And I think Brad is talking.
Yes?
Talking to myself, Narcy, sorry.
I wonder what you were saying.
I was trying to
Mr.
talk myself into staying in the sitting position for a little bit longer.
Okay, okay. All right, well, review those. Those are what we've done the last 3 or 4 years. And if you want to add anything or delete something, you know, let Kathy and the other board members know, and Dave. And I don't think I have anything else, Dave. Is there anything else or anybody on the board? Wow. Well, boy, this group is good. We got a great secretary, a great superintendent, and a great board. We take care of business, so that's good.
Kate, thank you for guiding us through this whole process. Just did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just have to say thank you very much, each and every one of you. It's just nice working with this group, and you know, and we keep the big focus has always been the students, and I just really appreciate that. And I really appreciate each and every one of you feeling comfortable to say what you think, because that's what we're about, is doing the best for our kids and our teachers and our community. So thank you. So I guess I'm going to adjourn the meeting.